Chapter 9. At Skandashram. Introductory quote. A visitor asked, "I am a man with a family. Is it possible for those in a family to get release? And if so, how?" Maharshi, now what is family? Whose family is it? If the answers to these questions are found, the other questions solve themselves. Tell me, are you in the family, or is the family in you? Who are you? Sri Ramana spent the years 1916 to 1922 with his mother Alagamal and the small community at Skandashram. It was during this period that he was joined by a number of those disciples who were to remain with him permanently. These included Viswanatha Swami, Ramaswami Pillai, and Kunju Swami. His younger brother Nagasundaram also joined the ashram. When Alagamal died in 1922, she was buried at the foot of the hill. Shortly thereafter, the time at Skandashram came to an end as the Maharshi and his followers moved to settle down at her burial site, and Ramanashram, where Sri Ramana was to remain until his death, came into being. Subchapter: The mother is reunited with her son. It was not until 1913, 15 years after her first visit, that Alagamal finally saw her son again. She came to see him on her way back from a pilgrimage to Benares, bringing with her Mangalam, the wife of her youngest son, Nagasundaram. Both were allowed to stay at Virupaksha cave for one night, which was the first time that any women had spent the night there. Alagamal prayed to her son for his blessings for Mangalam, in particular that her wish for a son would be fulfilled. Then both women returned to Manamadurai. Shortly afterwards, Mangalam became pregnant and gave birth to a son who, in gratitude to Ramana, was named T.N. Venkataraman, also to be known as Venkatu. In 1914, Alagamal made a second pilgrimage. On the way back, she again went to see Ramana. During her visit, she became seriously ill with a high fever that lasted several weeks. The symptoms pointed to typhus. When her state became critical, Ramana wrote a passionate prayer to Arunachala pleading for her recovery. This prayer is the only one in which he begged Arunachala to heal someone and to intervene in someone's fate. The last strophe runs as follows: Arunachala, that chasest away illusion, Maya, why delayest thou to dispel my mother's delirium? Besides thee, is there anyone who with maternal solicitude can protect the suppliant soul and ward off the strokes of destiny? Alagamal subsequently recovered and later returned home. As a result of several deaths in her family and the difficult circumstances of her life, Alagamal finally felt that she should spend the remaining years of her life with her second son. Nagaswami, her eldest son, had died in 1900s. Soon after her visit to Ramana, her brother-in-law Neliappa Iyer had died, and then also her daughter-in-law Mangalam. The house in Tiruchuli had been sold to cover debts. Neliappa Iyer had left the family in difficult circumstances. In early 1916, Alagamal set off for Tiruvannamalai. As she did not know whether she would be allowed to stay with Ramana in the Virupaksha cave, she moved in with Echamal, who each day brought a meal up to the cave. But after some time, she felt the urgent need to stay with her son. The community, however, did not want to see any change in the established ashram routine. Without consulting Ramana, they declared with one voice that under no circumstances should women be allowed to live in the cave. Although the other women argued that the mother should be permitted to do so as she was now too old to climb the hill each day, they remained unmoved. When Sri Ramana came to hear about the matter, he at first kept silent. Alagamal stood there unhappy and despairing and wanted to go, when Ramana, deeply moved, took her hand and said, "Come, let us go. If not here, we can stay somewhere else. Come." Fearful that he may indeed go away, they all immediately changed their view, and Alagamal moved into the ashram. Subchapter: Life at Skandashram. At the Virupaksha cave there was often not enough water, or at times none at all. But further up the hill there was a waterfall under which the members of the community took their daily bath. Alagamal, however, was too old to climb up to the spring. Ramana told how he used to fetch the water for her bath from this spring in 2 kamandalams. I used to bring water in both of them, carrying one in each hand. She used to sit down wearing a small cloth, and I used to pour the water over her head, just as we do Abhishekam over an idol. That is how she used to have her bath. Someone used to wash her cloth and bring it back. That was all. If water was brought in those 2 kamandalams, all her requirements used to be met. Kandaswami, one of Sri Ramana's disciples, eventually found this all too tiresome. Also, because of the growing number of disciples, the Virupaksha cave was becoming crowded. He therefore decided to look for another place to stay where they could live more comfortably, and he thought that the best thing would be to settle down at the spring. Once Ramana had given his agreement, he started work, cleared away the undergrowth, cacti and trees, removed the rocks and started building the ashram. He also planted a garden with coconut trees. Ramana named the new ashram after him. Kanda is the Tamil name for Skanda, and so the new lodging was named Skandashram. It is one of the most enchanting places on the hill, with an impressive view of the Arunachaleshwara temple and the whole town. More and more people were coming to Sri Ramana. Swami Tapovan Maharaj reports about his visit. One midday, I, a young brahmachari at that time, climbed to the cave, saw the Maharshi there, and placing a bunch of bananas at his feet, bowed and sat before him. At the same moment, some monkeys jumped on the scene, scrambled for the fruits, and ran away with them. Maharshi looked lovingly into my face. That was all. He spoke, but silence. Not a word passed between us. A supreme, a dynamic and divine silence prevailed. An hour passed by, all in silence. He rose for his bhiksha. I too rose from my seat, bowed again, and walked down the hill. The divine silence sank deeper and deeper into me at each step. Viswanatha Swami, who became a lifelong disciple of Ramana, reported about his first visit to him. My first darshan of Bhagavan Sri Ramana was in January 1921 at Skandashram, which is on the eastern slope of Arunachala and looks like the very heart of the majestic hill. It is a beautiful, quiet spot with a few coconut and other trees and a perennial crystal-clear spring. His look and smile had remarkable spiritual charm. When he spoke, the words seemed to come out of an abyss. One could see immaculate purity and non-attachment in him and his movements. I sensed something very refined, lofty and sacred about him. In his vicinity, the mind's distractions were overpowered by an austere and potent calmness, and the unique bliss of peace was directly experienced. This I would call Ramana Lahari, the blissful atmosphere of Ramana. In this ecstasy of grace, one loses one's sense of separate individuality, and there remains something grand, all-pervading, all-devouring. The daily routine at Skandashram was subject to strict regulation. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Alagamal would rise and sing devotional songs, while the other community members meditated. Then Akshara Manamalai, the marital garland of letters, was recited. Afterwards, Ramana took his bath. To brush his teeth, he sat on a big stone slab on the eastern side of Skandashram. He continued to do this even when the weather was cool. Nobody could make him give this up. Exactly why he did so was only discovered later. An old woman was in the habit of coming up daily for darshan. When her health would no longer allow her to climb up the hill, she could see Ramana from her house when he brushed his teeth at this place. He knew how important this was for her, so he always sat there, irrespective of the weather. At 8, there was rasam and rice for breakfast. After this, the ashram community sat outside. Some devotees read, others meditated. The atmosphere was very peaceful. Occasionally, Ramana answered the questions of devotees and visitors. In the evening, Akshara Manamalai was recited again. Ramana would close his eyes and sink into meditation. Sometimes his meditation was so deep that great efforts were needed to bring him back to normal consciousness. Someone would then blow into a conch to wake him up. When Alagamal moved into Skandashram, food was meager and depended upon whatever visitors and devotees brought. Sometimes the food was delicious and there was more than enough for everybody. At other times there was much less and sometimes nothing at all. Soon Alagamal started cooking regularly and took charge of running the household. She would wander about the hill and bring back things that she found there. She was an excellent and imaginative cook and liked to spoil the devotees with a variety of delicious dishes, using the ingredients she had somehow managed to find. In 1918 and 1919, Tiruvannamalai was devastated by plague. It was at this time that Kunju Swami joined the ashram in a very bizarre manner. He became a close companion of Sri Ramana and remained at the ashram after the death of Maharshi, where he himself died in 1992. Many episodes from Ramana's life have been reported through him. When he came to Ramana, the town was deserted because of the plague, and only a few people had remained at the ashram. Annamalai Swami, who was attending Sri Ramana at that time, not to be confused with the other Annamalai Swami, who later directed the building work at Ramanashram, died because of it. Ramanatha Brahmachari was also infected. One day, Ramana and some devotees were going round the hill and decided to rest at Pachayaman temple. One of them said, "We shall all remain here, since Ramanatha Brahmachari is afflicted with the plague. Arrangements can be made to send food to Skandashram." When Ramana heard this, he was outraged. What a wonderful idea! He came to me as a boy with complete faith in me. Is it proper for me to stay here, leaving him alone there? If you are afraid of the plague, you may all stay here. I will go and stay with him. When you bring food to him, you can bring some to me also." When they heard this, they all fell silent, embarrassed. Ramanatha Brahmachari soon regained his health, and no one caught the plague from him. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to Biography Central channel and share with your friends. This will help us reach more viewers.